Mark the date down, guys, because this is the day America's political earthquake just hit full force. President Donald J. Trump is no longer holding back. He's no longer playing their game. And the first domino has finally fallen. James Comey, he is the former FBI director, the so-called Boy Scout who weaponized the justice system against President Trump. He has just been indicted. In fact, 2 charges: lying to Congress and obstructing oversight. And folks, if you think that this ends with James Comey, think again. Trump himself just hinted, I think that there will be others. Now, this isn't just a headline. This is the beginning of something much bigger, a boomerang moment where the same corrupt officials who tried to take down Trump are now facing the full weight of accountability, and the left is melting down. In fact, the media is screaming and the political class is terrified. But Trump is unleashed, because today I'm going to go ahead and break it all down for you guys. Comey's charges, the hypocrisy of the left's outrage, Trump's promise of more indictments, and why this could be the most explosive turning point in modern American history. Guys, this isn't just about one man. This is about the storm that's about to sweep through Washington, D.C. as we know it. And trust me, the ride is only just getting started. Hit the like button, subscribe, guys. Folks, I want to go ahead and start right here. Donald J. Trump is sitting in the Oval Office, not the man who spent 4 years being hunted, smeared, and dragged through sham investigations, but I'm talking about a man who decided that he's done playing nice. In fact, the Trump we're seeing today is not the cautious Trump of the first term, constantly surrounded by snakes and backstabbers. This is Trump 2.0. We'll call him Trump 2.0, unleashed, unafraid, and ready to wield the full power of accountability against the very people who try to destroy him. And make no mistake, guys, this is a turning point. America hasn't seen anything like this in decades. And what better way to prove it than just the first domino falling? Look at James Comey's indictment, okay? That's right, guys. The former FBI director, the man who turned the bureau into like a political weapon, he's finally facing charges. Not rumors, not speculation, a federal grand jury indictment. The charges: false statements to Congress and obstruction of a congressional investigation. And folks, this isn't some technicality. In fact, this actually comes directly out of Comey's 2020 Senate testimony, where prosecutors now allege that he just flat out lied about authorizing leaks and approving these anonymous sources inside the FBI. You want accountability? Oh, this is it. Comey, the architect of the Trump-Russia hoax, the man who leaked memos to spark a special counsel investigation, now stands indicted. Now, here's the kicker, guys. This wasn't Trump writing an executive order. This wasn't some presidential vendetta. No, this was a jury of ordinary Americans hearing evidence and then deciding the case had enough merit to move forward. Now, for years, they told us, no one is above the law. You remember Letitia James saying that left and right? What was her name? Fannie Willis, she was saying it too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the boomerang has returned. Comey himself, he is now learning what it actually means that no one is above the law. Now, Medicare is supposed to be your safety net, but for too many, it feels like a trap. Can I get an amen on that? Medicare does feel like a trap, doesn't it? This is why I partner with Chapter, guys. They make Medicare a net that you can actually trust, not a hole that you fall through. Now, one of our viewers, she said, Chapter gave me confidence my Medicare plan actually works for me. So let me ask, do you want uncertainty, or do you want the confidence that most people already have? Now, most people are calling the phone number right there on the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. And of course, the telephone number is 909-563-8279, and let them know that your friend Ron says hello. Now, right on cue, the meltdown from the left is in full swing. Do you remember when Trump was indicted? Do y'all remember that? They couldn't get enough of it. The system is working, they said. No one is above the law, they chanted. The media lined up like trained parrots to repeat the same talking points. This was just the legal process. Nothing to see here, folks. Move it right along. That's what they told us, right? Y'all remember that? But now that it's James Comey on the chopping block, suddenly the justice system's broken. Suddenly it's Trump's fascist DOJ. Suddenly, the very same people who cheered when a grand jury indicted Trump are clutching their pearls, and they're screaming about dark days for democracy. Now, here's the best part. James Comey himself is caught in the hypocrisy. On June 9th, 2023, when Trump was indicted, Comey tweeted, and I quote, "Today is a good day for the rule of law. No one is above the law." That's what he said. And now he's whining and complaining that this is a witch hunt. Wow, it's a witch hunt now. I think it's funny that he's saying it's a witch hunt when That was actually Trump's coin phrase, but I digress. Folks, this is the definition of a double standard. So here's where things get even sweeter. Believe it or not, they get sweeter. The boomerang effect. Because remember what they did to Trump? They didn't just go after him. They went after his lawyers. They went after his advisors, his donors, even his family. They weaponized the justice system to destroy his entire orbit. And now the exact same system is circling back onto them. So let me be clear. This is not revenge. This isn't pettiness. This isn't any of that. This is accountability. And they created the rules themselves. They weaponized the game. And now, for the first time, they're being forced to play by the very same rules that they unleashed on Trump. Can I get a fair in the comments down below if you think that that's fair? Now, that is why the panic is so strong. This is why the meltdown is so loud, because deep down, they know this is only just the beginning. In fact, the question on everybody's mind is rather simple. If Comey is the first domino to fall, then who's next? You got to ask that question, right? And President Trump isn't hiding it, folks. He's not mincing words. He's not softening the blow. When asked who's next, he said it plain. Oh, I think that there will be others. Others. Let that sink in, right? Because that's not a throwaway line. That is a warning shot. More to come here, you know? So this is Trump telling the American people and the corrupt elite that Comey is just the beginning. So who else do you think could be on this list? Adam Schiff. Let me know if you think Adam Schiff is on this list. He's the man who lied for years about evidence of Russian collusion. Drop a Fani Willis in the comments if you think she's on the list. Same lady who weaponized her office in Georgia to target Trump and his allies. Drop a Letitia James in the comments if you think she's on the list. Same lady who used her platform to wage personal vendettas against Trump's businesses. Well, Trump has cracked the door open, and the speculation's already on fire. In fact, the message is clear. No one who corrupted the system to attack him is safe. And for once, feels like justice might finally be turning in the right direction. But let's not forget why this is even happening. Again, this is not about personal grudges. This is about the weaponization of government. James Comey and his crew weren't running an FBI. Okay, well, they were, but they weren't just running an FBI. They were running an operation. They leaked to the media in order to build these fake, phony narratives. They approved fraudulent evidence. You think FISA warrants? Think about the Steele dossier, and they shoved it right through the courts to spy on Trump's campaign. They tried to unseat a sitting president of the United States with a fabricated hoax. And folks, the damage, it was catastrophic. They didn't just go after Trump. They undermined the trust of millions of American people in the Department of Justice, the FBI, even the elections themselves. Like, they set back confidence in our institutions by decades. A lot of people stopped trusting the voting system. How many of you guys trusted that your votes were really going to be counted and that there weren't going to be some fake votes in there? So now, finally, they're being forced to answer for it. So when Trump says there will be others, oh, make no mistake, it isn't just tough talk. It's a signal. The era of unchecked weaponization is over and the reckoning has begun. And of course, the left is already screaming their bloody heads off. Their favorite line, this is political revenge. This is Trump turning America into a dictatorship. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. So let's go ahead and break it down, okay? When Trump was indicted, what were the charges? Opinions, legal advice, political speech during an election season. They criminalized opinions because they were terrified that he was going to beat them. That's not justice. That's persecution. I'm pretty sure you guys remember Alvin Bragg with the Stormy Daniels case in New York and Manhattan. They didn't even want to tell him what the charges were because they hadn't figured out what the charges were. They were just trying to take him down. It was unreal. So now if you compare that to James Comey, these aren't opinions. These aren't theories. These are real crimes. False statements to Congress, obstruction of a congressional investigation. The man lied under oath and used his position to shield corruption inside the FBI. I don't know about you, but that ain't political. That is criminal. So no, this is not vengeance. This is not fascism. This is what happens when so-called untouchables finally get touched by the same law that they claim to uphold. And if that terrifies the left, well, good. It should terrify them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and start with this. America is at a turning point. I mean, we've got President Donald J. Trump back in the White House, fighting for our country's future, restoring strength and demanding accountability. But while the political battle rages on, there's another fight, just as fierce. In fact, it's the battle against cancer. And today, I want to tell you about a company that is making headlines for a breakthrough that could literally change everything. In fact, today's video is sponsored on behalf of Oncolytics Biotech, traded on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol ONCY. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you already know that I don't just throw out random companies. What I'm about to show you is serious because it's about saving lives and potentially reshaping one of the toughest fights in modern medicine. Oncolytics Biotech is advancing a therapy called pelareorep, and we'll just call it Pella for short. Now, let me tell you guys, folks, this is not some run-of-the-mill drug. This is an intravenous immunotherapy designed to do something that cancer has always been good at avoiding. It trains the body's own immune system to recognize and destroy cancer cells. Now, think of it like what President Trump did to the political system, exposing corruption, forcing the swamp out into the open. Pelareorep is doing the exact same thing with cancer. It's pulling these tumors out of hiding and putting a big old red target on them so that the immune system can attack. So here's the genius behind this. Pella works in two ways. It directly kills cancer cells by replicating inside them and blowing them apart. It activates the immune system, turning what scientists called cold tumors, the ones ignored by your body, into hot tumors that the immune system can now attack. And unlike chemo that ravages healthy cells, Pella selectively goes after the cancer. That's precision. That's America First innovation here. So let's talk about the pancreatic cancer, okay? This is one of the deadliest forms of cancer with a survival rate that's been dismal for decades. But Pella has changed the game. In fact, the data shows that patients treated with Pella plus chemotherapy had a 2-year survival rate of 21.9% compared to just 9.2% with standard chemo alone. That's not incremental improvement. That's a revolution, folks. So here's where it gets even bigger. Oncolytics is working with the FDA right now to launch a registration-enabled pivotal trial in first-line pancreatic cancer before the end of the year. So this means they're not just running some small studies anymore. They're sprinting toward approval. And it's not just pancreatic. Pella is showing 2.5 times survival improvements in colorectal cancer patients with KRAS mutations, a group that typically has almost no good options. We're talking about extending lives in patients who desperately need hope. Plus, the Goblet trial is expanding Pella's reach across multiple GI cancers, even anal carcinoma, and the results are reinforcing the same story. Strong survival benefit, immune activation, and safety. Now, I know what you're thinking. New cancer drugs usually come with brutal side effects. But get this, pelareorep has been given to over 1,200 patients, including 300 in GI cancers, and the safety profile has been consistent and favorable. Most side effects, mild flu-like symptoms. The serious ones, they come from chemo, not Pella. This is why the CEO, Jared Kelly, says Pella is one of the most de-risked immunotherapies not yet approved in GI cancers. Key opinion leaders, the doctors and scientists who actually run the behind-the-scenes studies, they're backing Pella. They've said it clearly. There is a massive unmet need, especially in pancreatic cancer, and pelareorep may be the first immunotherapy that finally cracks the code. Now, folks, just like Trump built his movement by taking on impossible odds, this company is doing the same thing in oncology. So what's next? Well, Q4 2025, start up the pivotal pancreatic cancer trial. End of 2025, new data readout in anal carcinoma. Ongoing regulatory discussions with the FDA for both pancreatic and colorectal cancer. These milestones could be game changers for the company, its shareholders, and most importantly for patients. Here's the bottom line, guys. Oncolytics on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol ONCY is positioning pelareorep as a platform therapy, one that works across multiple cancers, one that could combine with other treatments, and one that has the potential to save lives on a scale that we've never seen before. President Trump always says, America doesn't settle for losing. We fight, we win. And in the fight against cancer, Pella could be the breakthrough that turns the tide. Now, I want to be clear. I am not an investment advisor, and this is not investment advice. Investors should always do their own due diligence before making any investment decisions. But if you're paying attention to innovation, survival data, and companies that could make history, keep your eyes on Oncolytics, ticker symbol ONCY. But here's what makes this even more outrageous. It's the media narrative, because a corrupt press is already spinning this as if Donald Trump personally signed the indictment papers. Like, they want you to believe Trump woke up in the morning and said, good morning, Melania. You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and walk down to the DOJ and sign the indictment papers themselves. Guys, they want you to think that Trump woke up in the morning, walked down to the DOJ, and ordered Comey's arrest himself. I don't think he did that. I really don't. Now, give me a break, guys. We've seen this before. These are the same people who blame Trump for Tylenol warnings, for Jimmy Kimmel losing his job, even for events that he had nothing to do with. They paint him as some kind of a shadow puppet some kind of a shadowy puppet master behind everything bad that happens in their world. But here's the reality. This indictment didn't come from Trump. It actually came from a grand jury. Ordinary Americans, citizens who looked at the evidence and said, hey, you know what? Yes, this man should face trial. That's the very process the left praised when it was Trump in the hot seat. Everybody remembers that, right? Now it's different, right? Now they want you to believe that the process is suddenly broken just because the spotlight has now turned on them. The hypocrisy doesn't even begin to describe this thing. So now I want to talk about what's actually going to happen to James Comey. Anybody want to know what's going to happen to James Comey? Because unlike the hysterical picture his defenders are painting, he's not being dragged into some dungeon. He's not even being locked in a dark cell by order of Trump. No, Comey is about to face the exact same process that Donald Trump himself had to endure. He's going to have to sit in front of a judge. In fact, an Obama-appointed judge, not a Trump-appointed judge. He's going to have access to the best lawyers that money could buy, maybe even the best defense team in America for all we know. He'll get every opportunity to make his case in a court of law. That is due process. That is fairness. That's justice. And you know what? That's exactly what they denied Trump in the court of public opinion, because Trump was branded guilty before he even stepped into the courtroom. Now it's Comey's turn under the same spotlight. So let the evidence speak for itself. Let the jury decide. No one's above the law, right? Isn't that what they told us? So let's go ahead and zoom out just for a second, because the national repercussions of this indictment, they're already shaking the entire country. Now, on the one side, you got millions of Americans celebrating, saying, finally, justice is catching up to the swamp creatures who weaponize the system. But of course, on the other side, you got Democrats crying foul, warning of fascism, calling this the darkest day for democracy. This moment right here exposes the deep divide in America. You got two realities looking at you, right? You got two truths colliding head on. One side sees accountability. The other side sees tyranny. And folks, that divide is only going to grow when the next domino falls, because this isn't ending. This is not going to end with Comey. Oh, no. Don't get it twisted. This is just the first tremor before the earthquake. And this right here, this is where we want to watch the era of double standards collapse in real time. Now, for years, we've lived under a twisted system where the rules only applied in one direction. When Trump was indicted, the system's working perfectly. But when Trump's lawyers or advisors were dragged into the court, that's accountability. When his family was smeared and targeted, that's just the process. But now that it's James Comey under indictment, now that one of their own is being forced to answer for his lies, all of a sudden the process is corrupt. It's broken. Suddenly the system is fascist. Suddenly justice itself is under attack. Now, folks, I don't know about you, but this hypocrisy, it has been rotting Washington from the inside for decades. They've used their power to shield their friends, punish their enemies, and convince you and me that there's nothing we can do about it. But that era is ending. Donald J. Trump has drawn a line in the sand. He is no longer playing by their rules, because their rules were never meant to be fair. No, they were meant to protect the swamp, and today that shield is cracking. So here's what makes it much bigger than Comey. Trump himself said it. I think that there will be others. That's not a statement. That is a warning, a signal, a shot across the bow to every corrupt official who thought that they were untouchable. So who could be next? Well, some names come to mind. I'm thinking maybe Adam Schiff, who lied for years about having secret evidence of Trump's collusion. How about Fani Willis, who twisted the evidence system in Georgia to try and derail Trump's return? Maybe Letitia James, who openly campaigned on destroying Trump's businesses just to score political points. Well, guys, these aren't just names. These are symbols of a system that believed it could weaponize the law without ever being held to it. And so now, for the first time, they're sweating, because if Comey can fall, they can all fall. That is what this moment represents, okay? This isn't political revenge. This is not even a vendetta. This is the boomerang effect. The swamp finally facing its own tactics. The same indictments, the same smears, the same grueling process that they cheered when it was Trump, now it's coming back to them. What do they say? It's coming home to roost. And this time, they don't control the narrative. So let's be crystal clear here. Today is going to go down as a historic turning point. The day the wall of double standards began to crack. The day the so-called untouchables realized the law applies to them too. The day Trump made good on his promise to end the corruption that has poisoned Washington for way too long. And mark my words, guys, Comey is just the first chapter. There will be more. Trump has already warned us the swamp is shaking, the elites are panicking, and accountability is finally on the horizon. So the only question now is who's next? Who's going to be first to be next? Is it going to be Adam Schiff? Drop me a comment down below. Who's going to be first to be next? Is it going to be Adam Schiff? If it's Schiff, drop a Schiff. Is it going to be Fannie Willis? Drop a Willis. Or Fannie? Is it going to be Letitia James? Drop me a James down below. Or maybe even somebody bigger. Barack Obama? Joe Biden? One thing is certain though, Gavin Newsom, this storm has only just begun. And the boomerang isn't stopping until every last corrupt official who thought that they were above the law faces the justice that they so richly deserve.